Disclaimer: this content is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. My name is Maris, I'm 34, and I guess, this is my confession. I haven't told anyone this, not my friends, not my therapist, not even myself out loud. But I need to say it now, even if only to you, stranger or screen or page or whatever this is. I married Jonah. I stayed with Theo. That's the part that sticks in people's throats when I say it straight. They think I'm some kind of cliché, like a woman who got bored and reckless. But it wasn't boredom. And it wasn't reckless. It was need. It was gravity. It was human. I loved Jonah. I loved Jonah. He was everything I thought I needed. Smart, thoughtful, safe. He never once raised his voice. He learned my favorite wine. He said I love you with the consistency of a clock, which should have felt like security, but over time felt like habit. Like something he said because it was his turn. When we started dating, he'd bring me sunflowers, because I once told him they looked like they were listening. That first year, he kissed me like he was trying to memorize the shape of my mouth. We had sex in his car, in the stairwell of our apartment building, once behind the bookstore downtown because I'd whispered something impulsive in his ear. He made me feel like I mattered. Like he saw me, not just someone to build a future with. And then, slowly, I became part of the furniture. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't dramatic. He still kissed me good morning, but it was the kind of kiss you give a dog before leaving for work. Quick. Soft. Obligatory. He still reached for me in bed, but it was with half his body still under the blanket. Lazy. Lukewarm. I started to feel like something he wanted to fall asleep beside, not something he wanted to undress. I remember one night, I'd just come back from a long trip with work, and I wanted him. I wanted to feel wanted. I wore that silk slip I used to wear when we were dating, the green one with the low back and the little lace detail near my thigh. I walked into our bedroom, and he looked up from his laptop, smiled politely, and said, "You look nice." Nice. I curled up next to him, rested my head on his chest. His arm came around me automatically. Like clockwork. His fingers tapped against my back like he was counting something else. When I pressed a kiss to his collarbone, he murmured, "I'm tired, babe," and I said, "Okay," even though I wanted to scream. That was the night I couldn't fall asleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to him breathe next to me, and I felt so far away I could have been in another house, another state, another life. And then there was Theo. Jonah's brother. The one who used to make me laugh too loud at family dinners. The one who remembered the name of the book I said changed my life. The one who'd look at me like I was something. Not a wife, not a woman, not Jonah's, just something he wanted to understand. We never touched in those early days. Not really. A hug here, a brush of hands during cleanup, one time his fingers grazed the small of my back when he passed behind me at a barbecue. Each time felt like a spark from something dangerous, something I tried to snuff out with every bit of guilt I had. I didn't go looking for it. I swear I didn't. But attention, when you're starved for it, tastes like honey even when it comes with poison. The exact moment I realized something had changed. It was a Thursday. Rainy. One of those dull gray city days where everything smells like wet concrete. I'd forgotten my umbrella, and Jonah had texted, "Can you pick up oat milk?" Theo was at the store too. Total coincidence. He saw me dripping, shivering, holding a soggy grocery list. He smiled and said, "You always look like the main character in weather like this." And God help me, I felt seen. Not useful. Not convenient. Not "Babe, grab the milk." I felt like a person again. That's when it started, really. Not the affair. Not the betrayal. The hunger. And once you feel that again, once your body remembers what it's like to be wanted, you can't unfeel it. Not even for a man you promised forever to. Not even when the man you reached for was his brother. Jonah's a trauma surgeon. That's important. It explains a lot of things, but it doesn't excuse them. When we met, I was drawn to that about him, his steadiness, the way he could walk into chaos and come out calm. I mistook that for emotional strength. What I didn't understand, not really, is that you can be calm and still be closed. You can save lives every day and still be completely unavailable to the people who love you. We live in Baltimore, in a quiet brick row house with too many plants and a fridge covered in post-it reminders he rarely reads. Our lives are predictable. Work, sleep, grocery runs, the occasional dinner out. His hours are brutal, overnights, double shifts, holidays. I don't fault him for being tired. I fault him for pretending that exhaustion and love are the same thing. It started with little things. One night, I brought up how I'd been feeling, not even everything, just the edges. I feel like we haven't really connected lately, I said gently, folding laundry on the couch. Like, I don't know, like we're just roommates who sleep in the same bed. Jonah didn't look up from his phone. I mean, I've been working a lot, babe. You know how it is. That's not what I mean. It's not about time. It's about attention. He finally glanced at me. So what do you want me to do? Quit my job? And just like that, the conversation was over. He thinks touching me is enough. When we're brushing teeth at the sink, he'll rest a hand on the small of my back. In bed, he'll pull me close, tuck his chin against my neck like that's the same thing as presence. He doesn't realize that intimacy isn't always physical. Sometimes I want him to ask about my day and actually wait for the answer. Sometimes I want him to notice when I'm holding something in. One night, I came home from work. I'm a middle school art teacher, and I was just wrung out. One of my students broke down in tears mid-project because his mom missed another parent meeting. I sat with him on the floor of the supply room for an hour. By the time I got home, my heart was cracked open in too many places. I needed someone to see me. To listen. Instead, Jonah was shirtless, waiting for me in bed, smiling like sex would fix it. I missed you, he said, pulling me toward him, hands already at the hem of my sweater. I froze a little, then tried to soften. Can we just talk for a minute? He kissed my neck. We'll talk after. No, I said, more sharply than I meant to. I need to talk now. He pulled back, frustrated. Maris, I'm trying. I'm literally trying to be close to you, and every time I reach for you, you shut down. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Because how do you explain that being touched when you're feeling invisible only makes the invisibility louder? I don't want sex if it's the only way you know how to be with me, I finally whispered. He looked like I'd slapped him. You think that's all this is? I think, I said, swallowing hard, you don't see me anymore. He got up, grabbed a t-shirt, and left the room without a word. I lay in bed, cold under the covers he hadn't pulled back up. My heart ached, not just with sadness but with a kind of slow, simmering resentment. A week later, he booked a weekend getaway. A cabin in the Shenandoah Valley, with a hot tub and a wood-burning fireplace. Let's reset, he said. Just us. And I wanted it to work. God, I wanted it to. But even there, with no distractions, something was missing. We sat in the hot tub under the stars, steam rising around us, and he put his hands on my waist, kissed my shoulder. It was tender. It was textbook. But when he looked at me, it felt like he was trying to summon passion out of protocol. Like this was what love was supposed to look like, so we should just follow the steps and it would all come back. I stared at the sky, chest tight. And all I could think about was Theo, how he'd once stood beside me in the kitchen, making me laugh so hard I burned the pasta, how he'd looked at me like my silences meant something, like he wanted to learn their language. Jonah loves me. I know that. But sometimes love, without curiosity, without attunement, without presence, feels like a weighted blanket, heavy, smothering, and too warm to breathe under. And it was becoming clearer, painfully, undeniably clear, that I wasn't the only one who had disappeared in this marriage. It's a Sunday morning in late October, and the house smells like coffee and the cinnamon candle I light whenever I'm trying to feel normal. Jonah's making pancakes, his attempt at connection. He's humming softly, flipping them with the kind of concentration he usually reserves for scalpel work. I'm curled up on the couch, wearing one of his old college sweatshirts. My legs are tucked beneath me, mug warm between my palms. I watch him like a stranger in a familiar room. He brings me a plate without asking how many I want. 3 pancakes, all the same size, syrup in a little pool to the side. He sets it down in front of me and leans in to kiss the top of my head. Morning, beautiful. I smile, automatic and paper thin. Thanks. He sits beside me, a little too close, his thigh pressed hard against mine. I inch away, barely, but he notices. He always notices now. Still mad at me? He asks, his tone light, teasing. His hand rests on my knee, fingers kneading gently like he's trying to coax me open. No, I say. I'm not mad. He leans in to kiss me, and I let him. But it's just lips against lips. No heat. No pull. No spark that makes your stomach flutter. Just contact. When he deepens it, tilting my chin, I freeze. Not obviously, just a flicker of stiffness, a slight pause before I respond. My body does what it's supposed to. My mouth moves. But something inside me clenches, not in desire, but discomfort. He doesn't notice. Or maybe he does and pretends not to. He slides a hand under the hem of my sweatshirt and rests it on my hip. That's when my whole body tenses. I pull away, just a bit. I reach for my coffee and take a sip, like I need my hands busy. Like I need distance. He watches me. His eyes narrow slightly, confused, maybe a little hurt. You okay? He asks. Yeah, I lie. Jonah sighs, running a hand through his hair. Maris, I'm trying here. I don't know what else to do. I didn't ask you to do anything. Well, you don't have to. I can feel it. You're shutting down. I want to scream. Or cry. Or disappear. Instead, I say, maybe I just need space. Space from what? From me? He reaches for me again, and this time it's a light smack on my butt, something he used to do when we were younger, playful, flirty. But now it feels wrong. It feels like a shortcut to something I haven't agreed to. I flinch. It's not dramatic, just a small jerk of my body, like I touched something too hot. He sees it. And for a second, his face crumples. You don't even like when I touch you anymore. That's not fair. Then tell me what's fair, Maris. Tell me what I'm supposed to do. He looks at me like I'm a locked door he doesn't have the key for, and he's been jiggling the handle for months. I set the plate down, pancakes untouched. I just need to feel like I matter to you, I whisper. You do matter. That's what this is. Me trying. Me making pancakes, me rubbing your back, me kissing you even when you don't kiss me back. That last part stings. He stands up, pacing now, frustration vibrating off him. You act like I'm trying to hurt you. I'm not. I want you. I love you. And I don't know what else to do to prove it. I open my mouth, then close it again. Because he's not wrong. He does love me. He's doing all the things love is supposed to do. But none of it is what I actually need. I watch him move around the kitchen, angry and lost. And all I can think, louder than anything else, is, why does everything have to turn into sex? It happened on a Thursday night over salmon Jonah had grilled just for me. He'd texted earlier in the day, "We're something pretty. No phones. Just us tonight." I'd stared at the message for 10 minutes before replying okay. Because what else was I supposed to say? I don't want to be alone in a room with you right now. So I put on the navy dress he likes, the one that dips low in the back and hugs me just enough. I even did my hair, added a swipe of lipstick, like if I looked the part, maybe the feelings would follow. The table was set with candles. 2 glasses of wine. Cloth napkins. Music playing low. Jonah was trying. He really, really was. We sat across from each other, clinking glasses like strangers on a date arranged by someone who promised we'd click. "This is good," I said after the first bite. It wasn't a lie. I watched a YouTube video on how to not overcook it. He grinned, proud, seeking approval the way he used to seek my laughter. I smiled. It's perfect. We kept eating. Safe conversation. His work, my students, a funny thing his residents said in the trauma bay. And then, out of nowhere, he said, "I was thinking we should try for a baby." I stopped chewing. My fork hovered in the air. I looked up at him, and he was still smiling. Like he thought this was the moment I'd light up, throw my arms around him, kiss him full on the mouth and say yes, finally, yes. Instead, I laughed. A sharp, too loud kind of laugh. Not joyful. Just wrong. He blinked, startled. "What? You want a baby?" I said, my voice rising against my will. "Now?" "Yes," he said slowly, confused. "We talked about it last year." "Yeah, we did," I interrupted. "Back when I still felt like a person in this marriage." He flinched like I'd slapped him. I set my fork down too hard. "You think a baby's going to fix this?" "I didn't say that, you didn't have to," I snapped. "God, Jonah. You don't even look at me. You touch me like it's a task. You think wine and sex and salmon are going to patch the gaping hole in this relationship?" He stood now, breathing harder. "I am trying, Maris. I do everything you ask. I plan things. I cook. I reach for you, and you push me away every single time. What the hell else am I supposed to do?" I stood too. "You're supposed to see me before you touch me. You're supposed to care about why I'm pulling away instead of making me feel broken for it. You're supposed to ask what I need, not just throw sex and candlelight at me and hope it lands." We were yelling now, both of us flushed with frustration. The salmon sat between us, cooling. The wine untouched. The candles flickered, casting shadows over everything we used to be. And then I said it. The thing I shouldn't have. The thing I'd been choking back for months. "Do you even know how long I've felt more understood by your brother than I do by you?" The silence that followed was instant and punishing. Jonah stared at me like I'd slapped him. No, like I'd gutted him. "What the hell does that mean?" he whispered. I covered my mouth. Too late. Too late. He took a step back, his face paling. Are you telling me you?" "No," I cut in. "Not like that. I didn't sleep with him. I haven't, God, Jonah. I haven't done anything." His voice dropped, low and shaking. "But you wanted to." I didn't answer. Because what could I say? That I didn't mean to? That I only craved the way Theo listened, the way he noticed me without asking for anything in return? That the intimacy was emotional, not physical, at least so far? Jonah walked out of the dining room. Not yelling. Not crying. Just gone. I stood there alone, shaking, the echo of my own words clanging in my head. And then the shame hit me. Not for wanting to be seen. Not for needing more. But for the way I said it. I sat down in the chair, heart racing, hands clenched. All I could think was, I broke something that maybe can't be unbroken. And I'm not sure if it was already cracking, or if I was the one who started the first fracture. 3 weeks passed. No more candlelit dinners. No more texts asking me to wear something pretty. Just two people orbiting the same space with a kind of practiced avoidance. Jonah started sleeping in the guest room. No announcement, no drama. Just a folded blanket, a closed door, and the quiet thud of him not coming back. I missed him. That was the cruelest part. I missed the sound of his coffee mug clinking against the counter in the mornings. I missed the way he used to kiss the inside of my wrist without even thinking. I missed his absence even though it had started long before he physically moved rooms. I watched him shrink into himself, not angry, not cold, just gone. He'd go to work, come home, eat in silence. He still cooked, still brought groceries into the house, still asked, "Need anything from CVS?" But it all felt like duty now. Like keeping a machine running that neither of us had the nerve to turn off. I saw him crying once. It was a Sunday morning. I woke up early and padded into the kitchen to find my phone. He was sitting at the table with his back to me, hunched over a half-eaten bowl of cereal. One hand was over his eyes. The other gripped the spoon like it was the only thing anchoring him. I didn't say anything. I just turned and went back upstairs. I wish I'd reached for him. I wish I hadn't been such a coward. I started sleeping with the TV on just to drown out the sound of silence between us. The irony? I couldn't stop thinking about him. Not Theo. Jonah. The way his shoulders used to relax when I'd lay against him. The way he used to run his fingers through my hair while I talked, like I was the only thing in the world that held his attention. It was never just sex. Not in the beginning. I started to wonder if I'd mistaken his exhaustion for indifference. If maybe, in trying to prove how unseen I felt, I stopped seeing him too. He had spent years holding people's insides together with nothing but thread and skill and determination, and I had wanted him to hold me together too. But maybe he was tired. Maybe he just didn't know how. We crossed paths one night in the hallway. I was brushing my teeth. He was coming out of the guest room in sweats and bare feet. He looked at me like he wanted to say something. I did too. Instead, we stood in silence, side by side, as the pipes creaked and the house settled around us. "Jonah," I whispered, finally. "Do you hate me?" His eyes softened, but he looked away. "I don't know what I feel." And that hurt more than any yelling ever could. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed for over an hour, fingers hovering over my phone. I thought about texting Theo. Just to talk. Just to feel understood. But I didn't. Because I knew that wasn't the answer, it never had been. I stared at the wedding photo still sitting on the dresser, the one where Jonah had his arms around me, forehead resting on mine, smiling like he knew exactly what we had. I used to know too. I crawled into bed, alone, and pulled the blanket up to my chin. Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow I'll decide. Whether to stay and try, really try, or stop pretending we haven't already let go. It was a Tuesday night when it happened. No dramatic fight. No climactic confession. Just a quiet pause in the middle of dishes, Jonah standing by the sink, water running over his hands. I walked in behind him, meaning to ask if he needed help. Instead, I said, "I think we broke it." He turned the faucet off slowly. Didn't look at me right away. Just reached for a towel and dried his hands like he needed the motion to process the words. Then, finally, "Yeah," he said. I think we did. We stood there for a moment, silence stretching between us, not as a threat this time, just a shared acknowledgement. We were two people staring at the rubble of something we once swore we'd protect. I never meant to hurt you, I said. I know, he replied. And I didn't mean to make you feel alone. I nodded, swallowing around the tight knot in my throat. I was. But I think you were too. His eyes met mine, glassy but steady. I still love you, Maris. I do. But I don't think I know how to be with you anymore. It hit harder than if he'd shouted. Because it was honest. Because it was the first time in months he'd said what I'd been afraid to admit. I know, I said. And I think I stopped knowing how to be with you too. He stepped forward and hesitated, then wrapped his arms around me, slow, gentle, careful. I sank into him, my cheek against his chest. It wasn't sexual. It wasn't desperate. It was mourning. His hand rested between my shoulder blades like he was memorizing the shape of me. Like he knew this might be the last time. I let myself cry then. Quietly, into his shirt. And he didn't pull away. He held me like he used to, only different, like someone saying goodbye. We didn't say it aloud. Not in that moment. But something passed between us. An agreement. A mercy. Later that night, I walked past the living room and saw him asleep on the couch, curled on his side, arms tucked in, blanket pulled up to his chin. He looked peaceful. Maybe for the first time in months. I stood there for a long time, watching him, remembering every version of him I'd loved. Every quiet morning. Every loud fight. Every time he'd held my face like it was something fragile and worth protecting. I didn't wake him. I just turned off the light. And went upstairs. Alone. You want to know the truth? It wasn't the affair. Because there wasn't one. There was no dramatic cheating, no secret hotel rooms, no lipstick on collars or deleted texts. There was just distance. And silence. And a version of me I didn't recognize anymore. I stayed with Jonah after I married his brother. Emotionally. Mentally. Quietly. Because I never really left that part of myself behind, the part that felt more seen by Theo than touched by Jonah. The part that felt safe with someone who looked like Jonah but didn't expect me to perform intimacy when I hadn't been met with it first. It took me a long time to admit that what happened between me and Jonah wasn't sudden. It was slow erosion. Quiet disconnection. Love that turned into obligation, sex that turned into negotiation, touch that started to feel more like pressure than affection. And yet, I loved him. God, I loved him. I loved how he used to laugh in the mornings, how he'd rest his forehead on mine after a long shift, how he never forgot to fill the car with gas when he borrowed it. I loved the version of us that felt like a team, before life got loud, and tired, and complicated. But here's the thing I've learned, love isn't always enough when it doesn't evolve. You can adore someone with every part of your past and still outgrow the shape of them. You can be in the same house, share a bed, share a name, and still feel so alone it makes your bones ache. And when the loneliness starts to feel familiar? That's when you begin to wonder if it's you. If you're ungrateful. If you're broken. If you are the problem. That's what Jonah meant when he said I made him feel like the villain. Because in trying to name my needs, I made him feel like he failed. But I've realized, there's no villain in this story. Just two people who forgot how to see each other. I needed tenderness before touch. I needed conversation that wasn't about bills or work or dinner. I needed to be asked how I was, and not just when I was crying, but in the middle of folding laundry or halfway through a bite of cereal. And maybe Jonah needed to be needed in a way I no longer knew how to give. Maybe my pulling away felt like betrayal. Maybe my silence was louder than I realized. We didn't scream at the end. We didn't break dishes or slam doors. We just stopped showing up in the ways that mattered. And by the time we noticed, the gap between us had filled with months of unmet needs and unspoken words. So I let go. Not because I didn't love him, but because I finally realized I needed to love me too. Not the version of me who made everything okay, who swallowed loneliness and called it marriage, who flinched when touched but said nothing. I needed the me who could ask for more, and believe she deserved it. I still think about Jonah. Sometimes I wonder if he's okay. If he's sleeping through the night again. If he found someone who fits him better, not because she's perfect, but because she feels seen when he reaches for her. I hope so. Because I want that for him. And I want that for me too. So if you're asking whether I regret staying? No. I stayed until I couldn't anymore. And if you're asking whether I regret leaving? The hardest thing I've ever done was walk away from someone I still loved. But the bravest thing I've ever done was stop abandoning myself to do it. And maybe that's what love really is, not clinging when it's unraveling, but having the courage to say, this is no longer who we are. And I won't keep pretending it is.